Coffee Conversations. We are here again this week with some leading industry experts that I'm really excited to be visiting with Ashley and Seth Pietsch. They are with Integrity Insurance, and they're going to talk about another thing that I just makes my head spin, and that's insurance. But they're also going to share some great roofing stories. So we're just so excited to have both of you here this morning. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Good morning.
It's great to
Good
be here.
morning. Hey, you know what the cool thing is? We're all in Oregon. Even though you guys are about 3 hours northwest of me, we're in the same time zone. So thank you for getting up so early this morning.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, no
And
problem.
we've got a couple other people out there who are getting up nice and early too. And we just were mentioning Wendy Marvin's on the line. So thank you, all of us West Coasters, for doing our coffee. So while everybody kind of gets on and we start launching this off, I would love to hear more about the two of you. So maybe Seth, why don't you start? Just tell us a little bit about yourself and your business, and then Ashley, maybe you can kind of also then share how it all got started and the awesome story you have of how you got into roofing. So go ahead, Seth.
Perfect.
Sure. So I started at the end of 2007 into insurance. I worked for her parents' insurance agency. It was Ross and Associates at the time. Just ended playing professional baseball in the minor leagues with the New York Mets and a couple other organizations.
Wow.
So I really didn't have any plans to ever get into insurance or even have an office job, and I ended up falling into an opportunity to go into insurance. And so I've been in it almost right around 12 years. And about 2009, just by dumb luck, I started trying to work with roofing contractors on the insurance side, and it really worked out well. And I've been specializing in roofing insurance for about 10 years now.
Wow, I love it. I love the focus on roofing. So Ashley, kind of bring the rest of that in too, how it all came together.
Yeah. So after college, I went to Oregon State, and I came home and decided I wanted to get into insurance. My whole entire family has been in insurance. My grandpa, my uncles, my cousins, my aunts, my dad, my mom, my brother-in-law. So started working as a receptionist at my dad's agency, and quickly knew that's what I wanted to do, and went through licensing and became an account manager and took care of all of the agent in the offices or agents' larger accounts. We primarily focused on construction. So I started in 2004, and then Seth came on board 2007. And yeah, in about 2009, we really started kind of targeting roofing contractors. And then my parents sold the agency to another larger firm, and we went there for a little bit, and then just decided that we kind of wanted to take this leap of faith and start our own agency. And so we branched out and started our own.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Now, for those of the folks out there who don't know you, you are married.
Yep.
Yes, and you have some kiddos. Why don't you just real quick tell about the family?
We have 4 children. My oldest daughter, Olivia, is 10, and then we have Gage, and then Jackson, or Gage is 8, Jackson is 4, and then Evelyn is 2.
So
busy.
You both are starting a business doing this with 4 kids.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So for all those folks out there who are thinking, oh my gosh, I have kids at home, I'm sheltering in. Yeah, you guys are doing that with 4 and your own business. So
yeah,
that is amazing. Kudos to you.
It's a grind, but it's worth it.
That gets pretty crazy.
Well, we're going to get back to that in a little bit as we kind of take questions. I do want to remind everybody who's on, because it looks like we've got a lot of people on now, that go to the chat bar over the questions. Ask any questions you have. We'll bring you on to talk to Seth and Ashley. Or if you're a little shy, don't want to get on video, that's all right. Just type your question in. Miss Megan Ellsworth is in the background, and she's chatting with you and also getting you all set up as soon as you have any questions. So until then, we're kind of going through the questions that came in earlier. So one of the things that you are working, Integrity's in 11 states, right?
Right.
And you're working with roofing contractors. What are you hearing in all those different states and from your roofing contractors about what's going on right now? How's business? How are they handling it?
Well, business has actually been, at least on the construction side, it's been really good. And, projects, yes, they are starting to get delayed or held up a little bit. Not necessarily canceled. They're just being pushed back. And even though contractors or roofing contractors are still remaining busy, what I am starting to see is, the companies that were doing 5-6 million, now they're wanting to now under project and go, about a 20% decrease, and just trying to plan for the next 12 months, because we don't know what's going to happen. But I haven't seen anybody shut down. A lot of the still a bit larger projects are still going on, but there's definitely a reduction in, gross sales, payroll, staff. They're just keeping their core group, if they can, the best they can, but they're still able to stay busy, but just not as busy as what we've all been used to the last 3.5 years, or maybe a little bit longer.
That's right. And what are you seeing with your business? Ashley, Seth, either one. What are you guys seeing right now happening with your insurance and renewals?
Well, we are extremely busy right now. It's a good busy. We've got a lot of new opportunities to work with people that we didn't get to work with in the past, and that's been really nice. But mostly, even our long-term relationships, they're hanging in there, and we've been really fortunate and blessed to work with, I feel, the best of the best roofing contractors in, predominantly in the Pacific Northwest, because that's where we're domiciled. And these roofing companies have been around for a long time, some since the 50s, and and it's a generational type roofing business that just keeps getting taken over by their kids and their kids, and it just kind of keeps canning down the line. And so most of these companies have weathered the storms in the past, and they can gear up for it, or at least know how to navigate these waters where sometimes a newer company that started when the economy was booming, they weren't prepared for this. And so we've always wanted to work with the roofing contractors that are part of the NRCA or the Western states, or a local association, because we've always felt that those are the roofing contractors that truly care about their industry, and they're the longevity ones that are not just in it to make a quick dollar and go on to the next one. So the ones that we've been working with have really seen these times through, and it's great to see them still being able to stay in business and do what they do, but just, on a little bit of a smaller scale right now.
Yeah, I love hearing that. That is because we support our trade association so much. Ashley, I know you're part of National Women in Roofing. And so, being involved, like I've seen you guys we all saw each other at the Oregon-Washington Christmas party for the Roofing Contractors Association. So that is really important. How's that worked for, maybe kind of expand a little bit more about your involvement in the associations, and what are you doing? Because I know I see you all the time.
A lot of Zoom meetings right now.
Yeah, exactly.
National Women in Roofing is still meeting monthly, just through Zoom, and that's been going great. It's been obviously we missed our actual meetings, but it's been going good. We have a great turnout, so that's been nice.
Yeah, really, we wanted to join the associations like the Western states, and then the Associated Roofing Contractors of Oregon and Southwest Washington, because we wanted to actually be an advocate for the roofing industry. And I felt really passionately about, if you're gonna try to work with roofing contractors, you need to be part of their industry and support them and really know their industry, because it's, from an insurance side, roofers historically have always been kind of looked at as the black sheep of construction. Unfortunately, they pay higher premiums. A lot of companies don't even want to work with roofing contractors or insure them. And so I felt like they had they always have an uphill battle trying to get insurance. And I wanted to come in and help in any way I can and just be a strong advocate for them and support their industry in any possible way. And, you know, obviously everybody has to have insurance if you're in Oregon or Washington, because it's, you know, you have to be licensed and bonded. So if you're going to get insurance, you might as well really make sure you're getting it from somebody that supports their industry and knows what they need, you know, to the best of their ability.
That's good. And you know what? That's the perfect, because that's the next question we have here is, you know, you know what? I am kind of familiar that a lot of renewals happen in May. I think a lot of renewals happen in November, December too, a little bit there. But what are some of the things that roofing contractors should be focused on around insurance right now, especially? Can you kind of share some of those tips for everyone listening?
Sure. Well, you know, this is, and not just so much just because of the pandemic state that we're in right now. This should be at all times, every year, regardless if there's a pandemic going on or not. Now the pandemic has changed the scope of, you know, insurance and just our whole platform. But, you know, in Oregon, we have a wide array of roofing contractors that do a lot of commercial and a lot of residential. We have some commercial only contractors for sure. We have a lot of big ones, you know, that predominantly focus on commercial only, but it's the residential. Washington and Oregon and especially California too, are really, really nasty construction defect states. And so we have a lot of class action lawsuits, and there's always the same attorney firm that sends out the construction, you know, defect claims notices and everything. And so there's a lot of variables when it goes into an insurance policy of whether or not you can do work on condos or townhomes or tract houses. And if you can do work on tract houses, you have a set number that you can work on. And once you exceed that number, or the development exceeds that number, you no longer have coverage. So you really have to analyze, you know, what type of work you're going to be doing, and not just in the past, but going forward, because in Oregon, the statute of repose for construction defects is 10 years. So you can get, I've seen it many times, you can get served a lawsuit in the 11th hour, 9 years and 11 months later after a project was done for a condo or a townhome project you did, and now you're getting notified of a construction defect. And if you move to a new insurance policy that now excludes anything to do with either prior work or prior condo or townhome work, well, now you have to rely on an insurance carrier that was insuring you, you know, 9 years and 11 months ago to really be the lead carrier. And that's not always the case, because it's hard to pinpoint when the actual construction defect happened. And so you have to really analyze your coverage and know what you're getting, not just to cover what you want to do in the next 12 months, but what it's covered you in the last, you know, 10 years also, or what covered, you know, work you've done in the last 10 years.
Wow. So as part of your services and what you're doing, you talk through this with contractors, right? And really trying to pinpoint not just tomorrow, next year, but 10 years down the road.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to. And when I started out in insurance, and in about 2009, that's when I really, really started to gain traction with working with roofing contractors. You know, just by luck, the roofing company that I picked up the phone and I had no connection with that I called, they thought I was a different insurance agent that they were allowing to come in and work with them. And somehow I snuck in the door and they liked me. And then somehow they said yes. And then from there, it really spiraled out of control, and it's been great ever since. So absolutely, you got to go in and you have to just analyze what they're doing. And it's not as difficult as a lot of people think, but you just have to understand what they've done in the last 10 years, what they're doing today, and what they want to do, you know, in the future. And you have to be a student of the game and understand exactly what insurance companies are offering, what coverages, because not every insurance company or policy is created equal. And unfortunately, a lot of people think, oh, it's just insurance, it's all the same. It is definitely not the same. And when it comes to construction, it's even more narrowed down and you know, fine-tuned, if you will.
Yeah. Well, it seems like I know we were just before this, we were talking a little bit about Trent Cotney and what they're doing legally across the country. You guys are doing something very similar. You're, like I said, 11 states. You're working with contractors across the country. What kind of training are you seeing out there about reducing risk? I mean, I love this idea of the proactive, of really like, instead of waiting to get in trouble, doing things ahead of time to stay out of trouble. So what kind of things are you seeing out there in the industry?
Well, everybody's had to make new, you know, they've all had to adapt to certain, new measures now with, obviously social distancing and that kind of stuff, because, it's the new norm for at least right now. And, most of the roofing companies that we have been working with, they've been established. They have, a lot of them have, safety, actual safety, supervisors, and conduct safety meetings where they actually have a bona fide, designated person that's in charge of their whole safety program. A lot of larger contractors, not just roofing contractors here in Oregon, they could become part of the AGC, which is Associated General Contractors, and through basically the carrier that represents almost all of the companies or employers, not just construction, but all employers in Oregon. I would say about 80%, maybe a little bit lower, maybe a little bit higher, is Safe Corporation. They're the go-to workers' comp carrier in Oregon, and they do a great job with, conducting safety meetings, and not necessarily meetings, but inspections, and their loss control comes out and see if they can help out in any ways. And then when you are members of the Associated General Contractors, you get enrolled, if you qualify, what's called an OGSRP, which is the Oregon Group Supplemental Experience Rating Plan, and you get specialized training and loss control meetings with the loss control reps from the AGC. And so they come out and they really dive in. And I've been on many meetings with those, with the loss control reps from the AGC or SAFE, just to analyze and really see if there's improvements that can be made. So, we're all adapting, we're all learning on this. So everybody's having to implement new procedures, but for the most part, I mean, Oregon's a very safe state. It's great for workers' comp. It's a very favorable state. But it really comes down to that you have to be conscious about making sure that you're involved with your safety programs, and having your employees return home at night safe has got to be top priority. And most of the contractors that we work with have that mentality. And if they don't, then you know what? Insurance is a mutual agreement. You can choose not to work together, but we choose to work with the best in practice, contractors that care about their industry and their employees.
Right. One of the things that we've had a topic, in fact, I see that Michelle's on here, Michelle Boykin with Rackley's on here, Wendy Marvin's on here. They've all been talking a lot about, and in fact, they're noting it here, but they've been talking about, hand washing stations, just some of the new normal that is coming out. And I would think there would be a lot that they're going to have to be thinking about risk even on water stations. Like, how does that work? Are you hearing much about that coming through?
Yes, we are, because Safe Corporation in Oregon, they just recently, they're a nonprofit, so they can do certain things with insurance that maybe some other insurance companies can't. But they came out and they released and they went back in and did another one, but they released a $10 million fund for eligible policyholders to basically help improve, sanitation efforts and disinfection efforts, where really, I mean, that was never really that much of a thing. Maybe some contractors and maybe some jobs, they were more conscientious of that, but sanitation and disinfection and stuff, that, you usually just go there, you work all day and you go home. Well, now everybody's got to be like, okay, we got to be 6 feet, we got to wash our hands, we got to sterilize. So, work on the workers' comp front, SAFE did actually give back, 10 million, and they approved another amount of being able to go in and help employers just establish that type of stuff. And so it did give good boundary, guidelines of what to do and implementations. Plus they gave, funds to be able to have, employers do that. So it's a very real thing right now. And it's, we've definitely seen a big, we couldn't even get hand sanitizer here in, a month ago. but now it's starting to be
Right.
a little bit easier to find. But that's been a big change, is having those stations and that capability of being able to disinfect or the cleanliness, a lot more now.
The risk. We have actually a question here from Trent Cotney. He and he
Keep it
can't
easy
get on
on me,
right
Trent.
now. Yeah. So he asked me to ask this question. Have you fielded any COVID-19 workers' comp claims, and how has the insurer responded?
I was going through a lot of articles that SAFE puts out. I follow pretty much SAFE's guidelines because Washington's a monopolistic state, which means that everybody in Washington has to go through the state to get the workers' comp. So agents like Ashley and I, we don't get involved with Washington, so we follow Oregon a lot. SAFE, they've come out multiple times saying literally this is a case-by-case basis on every single claim that comes in that could be, triggered by COVID-19. And it's very difficult to determine if it was caused at work or if it was caused, at home or over the weekend or whatever. And then they came into work and that was the first sign of being infected. And in Oregon, workers' comp is sole remedy, which basically means that, workers' comp pays first, ask questions second. So if an employee says, hey, I'm sick, I got contaminated at work, it's very difficult for the workers' comp carrier to then just say, hey, well, we don't know if you got infected at work or not. We're going to just, deny the claim. They have to do a thorough investigation and really try to pinpoint where they may have been infected and then go back and trace those steps to see if it was work-related or not. We have seen some. As of right now, they haven't been escalated too far because we're still in the fairly early stages of this.
Right.
But there's a lot of different types of, compensable, payouts on claims where, you got time loss, you got, different things like that. So right now it's a little early to tell how big of an impact or much of an impact COVID-19 will do on the workers' comp, market.
Yeah, that the workers' comp, that's gonna be wild. I mean, that's a great question, Trent, and also something we can track. We should be kind of having you guys maybe share some of that as you hear it, and we can keep that going on the Roofers Coffee Shop as they come through.
Absolutely.
Kind of how that's
Sure.
working. Yeah. I know we have Wendy Marvin out there with a couple of comments. So Megan, if Wendy wants to come on, I'm not sure, but she did on. Oh, there you come on, Wendy. I'm gonna give her a chance to see, and then if she can't, I will ask her questions here. So one of the other questions that came in earlier this week again was really, is there anything and I know we kind of talked about this, so I just want to go through specifically on things that they should be putting into their renewals. Okay, so we have a lot of contract conversations going on out there about pandemics and what's going on and changing some of the contract language. Anything specific that they should be looking at during renewals this month around the pandemic? It's really gonna be pinpointed down to what type of contractor they are. If you have, for the most part, a general liability policy, which every contractor in Oregon and Washington has to have in order to be licensed to perform work in Oregon and Washington. General liability policies, they are going to exclude fungus and mold and viruses from, their general liability anyways, because it's more of a pollution related exposure. So a general liability policy is going to exclude that, almost always. So the only way to have the proper coverage or to at least look and entertain coverage is to get a pollution policy that covers viruses or mold or, something like that. And it'd be the same thing as like coverage for asbestos, things like that nature where, asbestos is excluded underneath the general liability policy as well. But for the most part, roofing contractors aren't hired to go into an office space to perform preventative cleanings or,
cleanings after someone's been infected. So COVID-19 for a roofing contractor is going to be much different compared to a restoration company that is hired to do that type of stuff. And if a restoration company comes in, they want to be very, or any contractor performing sanitation services or disinfection as well, they want to make it very clear in their contract language with their client that they are not coming in to get rid of COVID-19, because if someone's infected, you come in, you disinfect it, it may be dead for 1 minute, but if that person that's infected comes back in and they're unaware of it, they reinfect the whole place again. So their contract language with their customer has to be very broad, saying, look, we are coming in to perform an immediate disinfection, but it's not going to eliminate the threat going forward if somebody's still infected. So COVID-19 we are able to get coverage for COVID-19 on the environmental front for contractors doing, disinfection and things like that. But this whole thing caught the whole insurance industry by surprise, and nobody saw this one coming, or at least nobody thought it was going to happen the way it did. So COVID-19, now we're starting to see specific exclusions come in directly related to COVID-19, and but for the most part, yes, this is new and it's happening today, but it's really the same guidelines that has been in place for for the last 20 years when it comes to insurance anyway. So really, this hasn't really changed much on the insurance front. As now, it's just making more people aware of what hypotheticals are out there. And that's the hard thing with insurance, is you are literally insuring a hypothetical situation that you may or may never have. And it's the peace of mind that you have with insurance is, okay, well, if this does happen, well, now I have a higher percentage of having a claim covered versus denied. And then if you go 20 years and you pay $100,000 for insurance, well, you've wasted, all that money over those years, except for peace of mind without ever having a claim. So it's hard to swallow sometimes, the cost of insurance, but it's the peace of mind that you have to really put in the forefront to realize that that's what's important with insurance on there.
Yeah, it is. It's one of the hardest things to do, but it really does make sense for your business. I have to have it for my business, even though, I work mostly out of Central Oregon, but you just never know there's a lot of crazy people out there. Hate to say it, but there are.
Right.
I do want to just real quick say, that Wendy couldn't come on, or she's not on, but she did want to note that Washington just announced we can't release hand washing water onto the ground. It has to be collected. So there we go. Another thing that the contractors have to deal with on the job site. So thank you, Wendy, for sharing that. That's
pretty amazing, actually.
Yeah. She also wanted to just say that saving money is what most insurance carriers try for. Seth and Ashley protect your company from the risks associated with our industry, past and future. So
Thank you, Wendy.
I think that's the difference when you're working with a company. Is it all about that company making money, or is it about that company creating a win-win scenario that everybody succeeds and makes money? And that's really what I keep hearing about the both of you, that this is a family business. You're part of the roofing industry. So I'd like to go and talk just a little bit. You are a family-owned business, and on your website you talk about building a generational business. I loved that. I thought that was just so cool. So can you just you mentioned, I think, all of your families in insurance. So how are you guys dealing with, this world of insurance now, the world of roofing that you've been in for quite a while, and family, that work-life balance? Can you share a few tips?
Yeah, it can get a little challenging, just because I feel like every family function, we're talking work. It's gotten a little bit better now that my parents sold and they're not really in the insurance world anymore, but we definitely pick their brains here and there about things. But yeah, actually, it's been great. It's great having a whole support system behind us. Like I said, my whole entire family's been in insurance, so they give great great recommendations, great advice, referral bases and everything. They've just been fantastic for us.
That is great. So I, my husband and I had our own business, 2 kiddos, only 2, and they would run around the warehouse, doing all those different kind of things. So now Megan is on here doing show engineering and part of the roofing industry, a National Women in Roofing member and part of Roofers Coffee Shop. So I kind of understand that whole generational and just that passion in there. So just side question. So are any of the kids, are they answering the phones at the office? Are they getting involved?
They want to come to the office a lot, and they're like, can we go in? Can we work for you? And, but they get here and then they just run around. But, we just want to be able to provide opportunity for them. And, I'd love to see it handed down. So if they want to come in and work receptionists as they get older and, go through the same steps that we did, we would love that. And even, the other thing is even the people that we have working with us, they've become family too. And, that just kind of opportunity is for everyone. And we just want to create a place that we can pass down and something that's just different, something that's relationship truly matters. We really want to build relationships with our clients that are forever, and that's just kind of our motto.
That is great. Seth, part of this whole insurance family, like you said, you kind of got into it coming from a different direction, like most people in roofing did. How have you found bringing all this together, not just on the insurance company, but on just that generational family?
Absolutely. Ashley and I we have, in some cases, it's kind of funny, but in some cases we have a better working relationship sometimes. It's kind of funny how that works, but we've been working together for 12 years. And you know what, it's been absolutely great. And I couldn't have asked for, and when we were at the other agencies, I couldn't have asked for a better account manager or account assistant than her. And then now we get to, run the agency together and be owners together. And yes, it's we're coming up on year 2 of being as our own insurance agency, but it's been great to be able to just work side by side with her on business wise, and then obviously being married together too. So some people can't work with their spouses. We're fortunate where we can, and we both share the same drive, the same passion, the same goals, the same everything aligned. So it's been a great partnership, if you will, for us.
I think too, it really helps you to understand so many of the roofing companies out there that are family based, right? We have, I look at the number of family owned businesses just in Oregon, but across the country that are generational. And then there's the new companies that are starting with, just like you two, couple say, hey, we're going to start a roofing business. In fact, in a couple weeks, Greta is going to be on here, and her husband Fred started a roofing company about 4 years ago, hugely successful. And so I think it is amazing, and it's really good that you can relate. You know what I mean? How often do you walk into a huge insurance company and you just feel like a peon? And here and here you actually are running your own business. It's a family business, and you can relate to that. So, do you tell us a little bit about some of the contractors you're working with? Are you working with many generational families, and what's kind of that whole succession? What are you seeing there?
I would say primarily most of our clients are, family-owned businesses and, partnering with their spouses or whatever. It's kind of like mom and pop shops, just that whole culture. And I know that when we were at Ross and Associates, that was the same type of clientele that we had. When we moved to the other company, it was, a much more broad, you had, big, huge companies that necessarily weren't family based. We just really missed that. We missed, those companies that just, on everyone's back door, and yeah.
And you're able to not only work with the current ownership, but you have that opportunity to a lot of times work with the up and coming ownership too, whether that's employees or family.
Yep.
When I first started, I was, I had a lot less gray hair, but it was hard to go into some of these established, roofing companies. And I remember one specifically put me through the ringer, and you know her well, Heidi. I won't say any names, but you know her well. She's in, somewhere in between, Portland and Eugene, somewhere in that area. But she put me through the ringer big time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to ever live up to her expectations? And she said yes. She took a leap of faith and with us, and she's been an absolute great person to work with over the years. And but it was hard to go in there as a younger in my career to meet with these people that have been established, that have been around for 20, 30 years, and be like, well, how am I going to trust this young guy to come in here and to know what he's doing? Well, then now they're now some of the other companies, their kids and their kids are starting to take over and own the business, that are now in line with us as, from an age spectrum and stuff like that. So you worked with their parents, and now you're starting to work with them. And, some of them become my closest of friends, where we hang out with, regularly, and we go camping together. So we haven't just built, client relationships. I feel like we've built, friendships, and that's a really important piece that we want to have with our clients. It's pretty powerful when you gain a friendship that strong, just from starting as a business relationship, and it's grown into more.
Yeah, that is as you're talking about this, we have a lot of people out there from across the country. So what are some of your tips on finding? I would say, hey, everybody calls Seth and Ashley, but sometimes, they want also, they're going to be looking in different parts of the country. What are some of the tips for roofing contractors on picking a really good, exactly what you're talking about, somebody who they can grow up with?
Sure. Well, that's a good question. I think the most important trait that you need to have, with your agent that you're working with is, the trust factor. If you don't have trust in your agent, and you don't think he's being honest with you, that's where the line should just be drawn, and just say, what, if I don't trust the people that are working for me, then we should make a change. And I consider insurance just like I do, attorneys and CPAs. If you don't trust your attorney, or you don't trust your CPA or your insurance agent, you need to make a change, because those are very key aspects to making your business successful, especially on the attorney side. They keep you in line, and they keep everything, making sure that you do the right, go the right direction. You have the right contractual requirements, and the right protection from you from a legal standpoint. The CPA, does all your everything that's financial wise for you. Well, in insurance, they're supposed to, you're putting, and I learned this really early, is these companies are putting their financial well-being in my hands, to make sure that they're covered in the event something catastrophic happens. And I didn't take that lightly. I'm like, oh my gosh, I better understand what I'm doing here, because these companies, you don't know what you don't know. And so you have to have that trust that whoever's working for you has your back 100%. And that's I feel one of the most key important factors of working with an insurance agent, is you just have that peace of mind, just knowing, what, ABC Insurance Agents has got this, and he understands it. I'm covered, and I feel good about it. If you feel any way different than that, I think you should probably have a conversation with somebody that you may connect with, and see if they have that feeling with their agent, and get a second option or a second opinion.
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to exactly what we were talking about earlier. Talk to other roofing contractors, because this is something that they want to share, right? Most contractors I know, they'll be the first ones, just like the folks we have online right now. They're going to say, this is who we work with. They're great. They help you save money, they help you avoid risk, and they do those things. Because it's not this, it's just like in marketing. I always tell people, do you really want to educate a marketing firm on what roofing's about, right? Do you really want to educate an insurance company on roofing? So really getting to know people out there, talking to other contractors, the associations, on who really understands roofing and what has to happen for your policies, don't you think?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'd also say, make sure that your agent is able to explain all of your forms and endorsements on your policies. I think that's super key. So, I know that takes time to kind of go through those, but ask your agent, ask them to educate you. What does this exclusion mean? What does this endorsement mean? So if you're protected or not. Because a lot of times insurance carriers will try to slip something on. And, your agent needs to be making sure that they're reviewing that and letting you know if there's any changes to the policies and letting you know if a carrier added on an exclusion form or something like that. So having an agent that really knows those forms inside and out, I think is key.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, we do have a question out there. We have I don't know if she got lost somewhere in between, but Wendy Marvin is back. So Wendy, Megan, if you wanted to bring Wendy on, she has some questions. We're hoping. Wendy, are you there?
Oh, here we go. Yay, am I there?
Wendy.
Morning, Wendy.
Good morning.
Technical difficulties in the morning. Hey, so Seth and Ashley, we fangirl on each other, and I didn't want to be that person jumping on every call, but it's like these people, I love them. I would hang with them after work. But the thing that I respect most about you guys is just what you just touched on, is you've brought things forward for me as a business owner that I didn't even think about. And, one of the things I think we haven't talked about yet is, the way that insurance companies jump in and out of roofing coverage. And, I know when we renewed, Seth, you guys sat down with me and said, here are your options. Here's this money savings option, because I know that's important. But this guy's new to the industry, and this company that you've been with for a long time is great and they will keep you, but if you leave and you come back, you're at risk for a higher premium. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because I just, again, thought that was huge and impactful. And again, the difference between working with an insurance carrier who sells insurance and a person who specializes in the roofing industry.
Thank you, Wendy.
Good question, Wendy. So, you can, in Oregon and Washington, you can look at a contractor's license and you can see their insurance history, basically any insurance company that they've been with, for as long as they've been in business. It can go back 20 years. But specifically for the roofing industry, you're going to see that about every 3-4 years, the insurance company changes, because insurance companies are always coming into the market, mostly because historically roofing contractors generate a large premium. The roofing companies see dollar signs and they're like, man, we can come in and make a ton of money on the roofing industry. Then they realize, oh man, one claim comes in and now what they thought they were going to make, now they're looking at a deficit. So they come in and they go out. A lot of the carriers that we've been working with and have a long-term longevity with, I want to use the term, they're grandfathered in, because if they've been a loyal account, they've been with the same carrier for an extended period of time, they will continue honoring their relationship with that roofing contractor and offering the coverage and the terms that are specific to their needs. But if somebody decides to leave that carrier, they no longer keep their grandfathered in status. And so then if we go back and try to make, a case to go back with them next year, you're not able to get the terms that we had before. And some carriers are coming in trying to buy up the market, offer, lower premiums, not the same coverage to get their book bought, built up with roofing contractors and things of that nature. But when you do make that switch, you lose the coverage for condos or townhomes, that you had with the old policies. And I'm not talking re-roofing or repair. It's the new construction that is very difficult to get. And in a lot of cases, when you leave an insurance company that you've been with for 5, 6, 7 years, and you try to go back to them, you're no longer able to get those terms that you used to have. So every decision that you make going forward with the insurance company, on your renewal, it's going to dictate everything going back 10 years and going forward 10 years. And so you have to have the most information possible, because it's not just, it's affecting 20 years, back and front of your decision on how you choose your insurance. At least in Oregon, 20 years. Other states is different. Washington is 6. Other jurisdictions are different years. I'm using that as an example in Oregon.
I appreciate you guys just, again, fangirling. And if I were to talk about my trusted advisors, you guys are definitely part of that group that has helped, my company grow and be safe. So love you, and continue on.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy, for coming on. And I think that kind of brings, I love, I've heard, leadership groups, trusted advisors. This is something roofing contractors need to build, right? They're really good contractors, and I'm seeing a lot of them. I'm seeing a lot of contractors here from Oregon. I'm not going to call them all out in case they don't want me to, but there's a lot of, a lot of people who are trying to build those teams to help them. So one of the things I would love you guys to kind of go on is how some tips, or how can contractors continue to run their businesses with this kind of, finding these kind of teams, insurance, taxes, legal, all those types of things, and how you all work together for the contractor. Because I think that's important, is that collaboration, because that's what the roofing contractors, you don't want to do something insurance and have your legal folks over here saying that doesn't work, right? So how does that work with you all?
I honestly believe that if you're not part of, one of the roofing specific associations, you're on the outside looking in. And just looking around, just looking at the panelists before us on here with, Reed and McKay, and with Thea, and with, Charles, and, with Trent, and with Wendy, a couple weeks ago, and Michelle and Curtis last week. Those are leaders of the industry. Those are the key pieces that keep this industry together, and it's strong. I can't be as inspiring as Charles is, but you get emotional when you see just the talent of people in this industry, and how their desire and their willingness to help other contractors, help improve the industry, and just whatever they can do to be an advocate for other people. But if you're not part of the NRCA, if you're not part of the Western states or your local, Oregon or Washington, association, get a part of it, because that's where you're going to meet people like Trent, and you're going to meet, the people that really are the driving force behind keeping the roofing industry going forward. And that's where you can go in and meet just extraordinary people and be able to get the information that you're looking for, and, see who they're working with. But if you're not part of it, it's hard to get that information, because you're just going off of, your company, maybe a local CPA or a local insurance company that, yeah, they're nice people, but they may not be specific to what is geared towards your business.
Right. Perfect. And putting those teams together of people you trust, and talking to other contractors to see who they trust, because like you said, knowing roofing, right? So we have just a short time, but one of the questions that's really on my mind too is, if you're a roofing contractor who's maybe had some problems, right? It's not your fault, or maybe it is your fault. But safety problems, risk, their mod rate is just not good. How can you help them get back how can you help them kind of bring from a business that's not running so well and where they really want it to, they want to do all the right things. What's that journey look like?
That's definitely, it would be a rebuilding stage and a rebuilding strategy that we would put together. One, we would want to get involved and see what they're doing from a safety level and from a workers' comp level, and then reach out to key components and key pieces to be able to fill the needs they're looking for, whether that's from loss control, whether that's the employee handbook, whatever it is. You'd have to just really, they would have to have the trust and the confidence in us to open up their playbook and not hide anything. A lot of people are for one, on an insurance side, a lot of people are scared to open up their insurance policy and show another agent what they're paying or whatever it is. It's not about how much they're paying. It's about making sure they have the best coverage. And then, yes, price does come into it, but they have to be willing to open up their playbook and not hide anything. And if they're willing to do that, that's when it's easiest for us to come up with a full plan of attack to address any problem areas that they may be having, and then try to fill those holes with the best measures that we can. That's really how I try to do things. When I go into an insurance policy or an insurance program, my goal is to go in and tear it from the roof down to the foundation and then rebuild it better and explain what we're doing and why we're doing it. But if somebody's not willing just to be like, okay, here's all my stuff, figure this out, because I don't even know what we have, that's when it's very hard to do that, because now I'm just trying to put pieces together that may not, fit or may not be the need that they're needing that right, at that time. And I can't address problem areas or potential problem areas. So it's really just, if you're going to do a full review or have a full, analyzation of what you got going on, if there's problems, you have to be willing just to not hide anything and just open up the playbook for them.
That's great advice. And if you are a company out there, we have a number of companies that have been doing sub work, right? They're subcontractors.
Sure.
But every trade show I go to, I meet somebody who says, I'm here because I don't want to sub anymore. I want to start my own business. What are some of your advice to those companies that want to, either brand new companies or maybe companies that have been subcontracting that want to start their own business? How can you help them?
Well, we've had a couple perfect examples in this first year with a couple roofing companies starting up their own business. They've been part of the roofing industry for 20 plus years, and they decided, you know what, I'm going to start my own roofing company, and I'm going to start from the ground level and build it up. So really, it's the education process. Is you have to have general liability, and you have to have a bond in order to get licensed in Oregon. That's all that you need to get licensed and bonded and basically legal to start working. When you hire an employee or employees, you have to have workers' comp. What you don't have to have all this extra fluff, pollution policies and employment practices policies, whatever it is. There's a million different coverages, but you have to start out somewhere in order to get somewhere. So we start out with just like, here's what we need to do. This is the type of roofing that you want to do, whether it's commercial, residential, or whatever. We specifically get a general liability policy that's geared towards what they're wanting to do, going forward. We get them licensed, we get bonded, but then we do our best to provide just an education piece of saying, okay, well, when you hire employees, here's some coverages to consider. This is what could happen with, an employee gets hurt on a job. You have to have workers' comp. If an employee gets disgruntled and they think you're treating them unfair, and now they file an employment practices claim against you, this is the coverage that you need to protect you from against a disgruntled employee. So we try to provide information as they're growing to give them, the information piece, because they don't know all these different coverages. That's not their profession. That's why they're hiring us, is to provide them with information. And that's what we try to do, is be the information piece for them. And then ultimately they're going to decide whether or not that's an important coverage to get or not. but at least now they have the information and they know and they can make the best decision for their company, whether they purchase an additional insurance policy or not. We just want to make them aware that this is out there. This is a real threat and an exposure. And if you're ready for it, we're ready for it. But until then, here's information on it, and we can talk to you more about it if you have questions. So it's the information piece that we try to always provide to the customer, whether they're been in business 50 years or not, or 1 year, we still try to do our best to provide that information piece for them.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Well, I would like to end this with one last question. And Ashley, I'd like to start with you, and then Seth, add in any progressive ideas, anything new that maybe people don't know about, because this is the world you guys live in, about insurance, risk, something that our contractors should be thinking about for the future.
See here.
Stumped us at the end. No.
No, I think actually maybe you've said it already. So I may be asking a question you already answered, but you talked about the pollution policy, right?
Right.
Is that new? Is that something different?
It's not necessarily new, but you'd be surprised on how many times it's not purchased. I mean, it's very rare for contractors in general to purchase a pollution policy. It's one of those extra coverages that's not required to be licensed. So sometimes and they're not super inexpensive. A roofing company doing $5 million in sales is going to cost $5,000 or $6,000 a year for a pollution policy. But since it's not required by law, it's sometimes overlooked. So it really comes down to your business and your comfort level of self-insuring yourself if you feel that there's going to be a pollution-related incident that you're going to be brought in to try to defend yourself on. But as far as just progressive ideas, I mean, I've been on so many different, coffee conversations, just in the last, 2 months, and there's been so many great ideas. It's just seeing what people are doing across the country, just doing different ideas that they've been throwing out there. There's, from an insurance side, really, it's not much has changed. I mean, I'm still doing the same guidelines and same protocol that I've done since I started at, 12 years ago. So really, it's just now, the main thing that I want to, end with is just really now be more aware that there is more insurance out there than just what you think you have, and then just have that conversation with whoever your trusted agent is to see if there's anything else that you might be missing or you could add in that would help, cover you, and just have that open conversation with that person and see what they say.
Perfect. Thank you. I didn't mean to stump you at the end, but that is exactly, you said exactly what I was hoping for. So that is great. And you know what? One thing we didn't touch on is also using technology to make sure you're online, you're in your portals, you're doing all those kind of things with your insurance. So maybe we'll get an article on some of that along with the pollution stuff that we can post on the coffee shop and keep this conversation going. So
great.
Ashley and Seth, thank you. Thanks for getting up so early and being here.
Well, thank you very much, Heidi. It's been great to be on.
Well, we love having you. Seth and Ashley are RCS influencers, and so they are writing every month they just wrote a great article that they reminded me about on medical benefits and what you should be asking, the questions you should be asking. You can find them, of course, in our influencers directory. They're also in the Roofers Coffee Shop directory with Integrity Insurance. And this has been recorded, so please share it with other people. I just think there's so much great information for new and established roofing contractors on insurance. You guys definitely made a topic that I really kind of run from very interesting. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having us, Heidi.
We will do it again. Okay, so everybody, next week is John DeRosa with SRS Distribution. I've known John for a long time. He is really amazing, very smart about marketing, sales, distribution, manufacturing, you name it in the roofing company. But he's going to be here to answer some questions on what's happening in distribution right now. What are some of the things that contractors should be aware of, and how can distribution help them during this time? So please join us next week, same time, and we'll see you all then. Have a great day.
Hi,
Thank
thanks
you.
for having us.
Thank you. Bye, guys.